You know, this just shows my inexperience with shooting videos because what happened was I shot the reviews for Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith back to back. But the thing was, when I was screwing around with the video for Revenge of the Sith, kind of editing it and separating the files and whatnot, I accidentally deleted it, or I accidentally deleted the Attack of the Clones review. I had put a good half hour into that review and it was just gone. Just so honestly, since I didn't really want to channel that kind of raw emotion again, I held off on reshooting it until now. That is, but the Revenge of the Sith video is fine. I should upload that very soon after I upload this one. But Attack of the Clones, yeah, the only Star Wars movie that I will actually come out and say that I don't like. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Okay. The story this time around takes place, I think, 10 years after The Phantom Menace, and it basically deals with a bunch of systems leaving the Galactic Republic and forming their own little confederacy. And they are led by Christopher Lee, who is playing a guy who, I am not even kidding here, is named Count Dooku. Count Dooku. I'm not even going to comment on that because that is well tread over ground by this point, how stupid that name is. But apparently there's a bill being proposed there's a bill being proposed in the Galactic Senate about forming an army of the Republic to combat the Confederacy. Now, as far as they've been informed, the Confederacy isn't really doing anything wrong. I mean, they're just declaring their independence from the Republic, so I don't really know why that warrants the formation of an army if the Republic doesn't already have an army. Later in the movie, they gave a reason why the Republic needs an army, because apparently the Separatists are secretly building these droid armies, these battle droid armies. You know, the chicken-shaped fighting robots from Phantom Menace. Apparently we're supposed to take them as a threat, but in strict opposition to the bill is Senator Amidala from the Phantom Menace, the former queen from Phantom Menace, who is going to the Senate to vote against the bill. Unfortunately, this makes her the target of several assassination attempts via an unknown source, so she is appointed 2 Jedi, essentially bodyguards, Obi-Wan Kenobi and his apprentice Anakin Skywalker. So the whole movie, they're trying to protect her while also trying to uncover this conspiracy going on, and it all kind of escalates from there. Now, let me first start off by naming some good aspects to the movie. The acting is still very wooden, but it's not as wooden as it was in The Phantom Menace. Like, Ewan McGregor is better this time around as Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's starting to look the part. I mean, he's rocking a sweet Jedi mullet, so that was kind of funny, seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi with a sweet 90s mullet. And the beard, he's starting to get the Alec Guinness beard going on, so Um, but yeah, he's allowed to go off on his own for a little while. He's basically carrying entire scenes by himself, so that allows him to exude some semblance of charm, or what little charm the script allows him to exude. Um, Christopher Lee is an upgrade as the villain. I mean, Darth Maul, as cool as he was, we never really got any kind of motivation or personality out of him other than the fact that he was a killing machine or an assassin or a ninja warrior. We never really saw anything beneath that, but Christopher Lee, he's Christopher Lee. I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, he effortlessly, ever, I can't talk. He effortlessly embodies this kind of regal charm without being kind of mustache twirlingly evil. I mean, you believe what he's saying whenever he's saying to the heroes like, oh, the Republic is corrupt, blah 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 blah. Turns out to be complete. Turns out to be complete bull malarkey. But up until that point, you actually believe him. You actually kind of sympathize with him. I mean, he gives a better performance than a lot of the heroes in the movie. But speaking of which, Natalie Portman is still very terrible. Which I still don't know what kind of direction that Lucas is giving her, but she doesn't read her lines flatly this time around. She just reads them without any kind of investment, without any kind of conviction. I mean, you don't buy anything that's coming out of her mouth. I mean, she always has this. I'm trying to think of some of the really stupid lines she said. Like, I mean, she and Skywalker are hiding out on her home planet. I forget what it's called, but they're hiding out on her home planet, and it's a very kind of almost tropical-like location that they're on. So her first reaction as they are walking along this terrace is to go like, "I love the water. We used to lie out on the sand and let the sun dry us." Ah, boy. I will be most grateful for your speed, Master Kenobi. I mean, she is just terrible in this movie. She is so bad. And her character hasn't gotten any more interesting. I mean, her character is still completely boring. I mean, however annoying you found Leia, and however boring you found Leia as a character, how she could be kind of naggy, and somewhat too self-righteous at times. Good God, you have not seen Padme Amidala. I mean, she is so boring, and so... Oh, God. But she's not the worst part of the movie, believe it or not. I mean, the worst part of the movie is the new guy, Hayden Christensen, who takes over from Jake Lloyd as a 20-something-year-old Anakin Skywalker. And... wow. He is just... Now, granted, a lot of this has to do with the writing, I grant you that, but Hayden Christensen just plays this role as this really petulant little whiny brat. I mean, he just... every single scene he is in, every single word out of his mouth is just said like this little child not getting a toy that he wanted. I mean, he's just kind of like, you fell into that nightmare, Master, and I rescued you, remember? I mean, jeez. Good guy. What was some of the stupid crap that he said? He would regularly argue with Obi-Wan, his mentor, just to be contradictory. I mean, he's like, it's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's jealous. He's holding me back. Are you kidding me with this guy? This is supposed to be our hero. This whiny little pissant of a character. Good God. I mean, he's worse than Jake Lloyd. Jake Lloyd was at least a little more enthusiastic. I mean, yeah, he was still terrible, but at least he put some energy into it. But Hayden Christensen is just so awful in this role. And again, a lot of that has to do with the writing, which I will now get to. The writing it completely undermines the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker's fall. I will probably get to this later in the Revenge of the Sith video, but Anakin Skywalker, we can't really feel sorry for him when he becomes Darth Vader, because in this movie we're seeing him develop as a Jedi, but we don't like him. I mean, he's just so irritating and just, oh God, he's like a spoiled brat. And they keep referring to him as Annie, which that's a really stupid nickname. His name is Anakin, so we'll call him Annie. Instantly, his masculinity is gone whenever someone calls him that. I mean, whenever Natalie Portman calls him that, or whenever his mom calls him that, he's instantly any coolness, any masculinity, any of that is just instantly sapped. I can't take this guy. I really can't. I mean, he is such a boat anchor on this whole movie. I mean, truth be told, whenever the movie is focusing on Obi-Wan and his exploits to solve this mystery, it's actually not that bad. It's not that bad, yeah. Yeah, there's still way too much CGI, and there is that kind of Lucas-style disconnect. But compared to the rest of the movie, it is like a Dick Tracy cartoon, alright? Because it is like a Dick Tracy serial, because it's... I shouldn't have said cartoon, but you get my meaning. Because whenever it's not focusing on Obi-Wan and him doing the exciting stuff, the interesting stuff, it cuts back to probably the biggest problem with the movie, which is the romance, if you can even call it that, between Anakin Skywalker and Padme. I hate saying that name, but their romance is just so unbelievable. When I say unbelievable, I'm not saying that it's grand or epic or sweeping. Not that kind of unbelievable. I'm saying that it's very hard to take it seriously. You don't buy it. It lacks believability. These actors have no chemistry with each other. I mean, it just seems like they are so apathetic about each other that that whenever it's supposed to be an intimate moment, it gets kind of uncomfortable. And the dialogue doesn't help either. I mean, I'm trying to. Okay, that earlier line, which Natalie Portman said, like "I love the water," that was supposed to be that was supposed to have sparked this romantic conversation. And you know what Skywalker does to follow that up? He's like, "I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere." These actors have no chemistry. They all their line readings are completely uninvested, and they are completely. What makes it even more irritating is that is that there's no suspense, there's no audience interest because we know they are going to end up together because they have to spawn Luke and Leia. But the thing is, you can still make that love's romance scenario interesting. I've seen it done. I mean, the only reason that we buy these two are in love is because the movie is telling us that they are. The movie is telling us that they will get together. The movie is telling us that they have these feelings for each other, and they just don't show it. Ever heard of show, don't tell? And another thing, with them supposed to end up together, I've seen movies where this supposed detriment to a love story is actually completely forgotten about. I mean, Walk the Line, James Mangold's movie Walk the Line. You know that Johnny Cash and June Carter are gonna end up together at the end of the movie because well, they were together in real life. I mean, you know, there's not going to be any moment where you're like, oh, they're not going to end up together. You know they're going to end up together. But what made that movie interesting was the fact that life kept getting in the way. Their careers kept kind of created all sorts of pitfalls and perils, both physically and emotionally. Cash's habits got in the way. His adjustment to stardom got in the way. June's divorce and her really unwillingness to commit got in the way. I mean, all these obstacles made that love story very interesting, despite the fact that we knew what was going to happen in the end. I mean, it's the journey, not the destination. That journey was worth going on because, again, it was interesting. It felt real. It felt relatable. It felt genuine. It felt heartfelt. I mean, in addition, Joaquin Phoenix and Reese Witherspoon had very intense and very believable chemistry together. And I'm not just saying that because they looked the parts. They looked like Johnny Cash and June Carter, but they actually had very, very genuine chemistry. Or what was another movie I'm thinking of? I just had it and now it's gone. I'll think of it later. Probably. I'm looking at my bookshelf to see if I can get any reminders. Forget it. Oh, now I thought of it. I got a reminder from my bookshelf. Thanks, bookshelf. This may be kind of a more controversial example, but Brokeback Mountain. We knew from all the posters, all the advertisements going in, it was even it was known by many as the gay cowboy movie. We knew that Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal were were going to end up together at some point in the movie. Yeah, the movie has a sad ending because Jake Gyllenhaal dies, but that doesn't change the fact that they got together. They had this big sweeping relationship, and you know what? That was interesting, despite the fact that it was a homosexual relationship. It was interesting. I mean, again, life got in the way. Ledger was trying to care for his family. He couldn't get away. He couldn't get away for these supposed fishing trips at Brokeback Mountain. Gyllenhaal was trying to sort things out with Hathaway's family in that movie. He was getting all pissed off because Ledger couldn't get away from his family. Ledger's wife left him for another guy. I mean, it was all of these things made those movies more interesting. And there was real passion. I feel kind of uncomfortable saying this because I'm not one of those homophobic types. I can't believe I'm even getting into this subject matter on this review, but I'm not a homophobic type. I mean, I don't have a problem with gay relationships. But the thing is, I didn't really think I would be talking about it on this review of Star Wars. But both in Walk the Line and in Brokeback Mountain, as well as several other love stories, there was real passion behind the scenes where they are supposedly falling in love. I mean, the actors were there. They were devoted. They made you believe that they were falling in love. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, on top of having no screen chemistry, their hearts were just not in it. I mean, either their hearts were not in it, or Lucas was making it so their hearts were not in it. I mean, Lucas, maybe he was just giving this really, maybe he was directing them to be this really stilted, boring, maybe he was directing them to have this really stilted, boring progression in their relationship. I don't know what the deal was, but it really does not pay off. Whatever the intent was, it does not pay off. So that is the worst part of the movie, and that is what I really can't stand about this movie. Everything else is just mediocre. I mean I don't want to say mediocre because, again, I do kind of like the parts with the Ewan McGregor and his kind of murder mystery. There's still way too much CGI. I'm sorry, but there is. It's supposed to kind of trigger memories of the older Star Wars movies. It's supposed to be in that you recognize these creatures, you recognize this world. They're trying to update the world. They're trying to update the realism of this world. I get it, but I'm sorry, I've said it before, I'll say it again. There's a real disconnect when you have just walls upon walls of blue screen and CGI completely swallowing up your actors and completely filling the screen. I mean, it's just... I've actually seen behind the scenes stuff aside from this of the ending battle on the what looks to be this kind of a desert planet with all these bug people on it. Aside from the sand, I mean, the actors came to work. A bunch of sand was on the ground because, yeah, it's a desert planet, but basically they were surrounded on all four sides by just huge blue screens. Is that really what you want to do? Is that really the best way to do this? Because let's talk about some of the other actors. I mean, Yoda is now CG. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they have him lightsaber duel at the end. And I will admit, it was kind of cool to see Yoda dueling with a lightsaber. But because he actually had some walk to back up his talk. The talk he's been doing for 4 movies before this, so it was kind of neat to have him duel with a lightsaber, but again, they could have done that while still having a puppet for the rest of the movie. I mean, this digital Yoda, they take the fun out of Yoda. They really do. I mean, he has no playful side. The playful Yoda, or the kind of wise but mischievous Yoda from the other movies, is gone. He is replaced by this really stone-faced, serious, grim little toad. He's still voiced by Frank Oz. Frank Oz still carries it fairly well, but he's almost rendered superfluous because he doesn't get to do anything with his puppets. He doesn't get to exhibit the kind of personality that he could before. So there's almost no point to having Frank Oz do this voice anymore because they can do it in the computer. What else can I talk about? The music is nice. The music is very epic and sweeping and whatnot. I mean, John Williams still brings his A game, although oftentimes that could almost be a detriment because the music oftentimes puts more emotion and effort into the scenes than the actors do. Like, I remember the love theme for Skywalker and Amidala with more fond memories than I recall the actual relationship itself. But yeah, didn't like this one. The acting was only slightly improved on some fronts. Samuel Jackson is still flat as can be. He doesn't get to drop one F-bomb. I think this role should have gone to someone who has more experience with these calmer roles. If they wanted a black guy for Mace Windu, the purple lightsaber Sam Jackson Jedi, they should have gone with someone who actually looked wiser. Samuel Jackson does not look wise. He looks like Sam Jackson. I mean, they should have gone with someone like Keith David or Idris Elba or someone like that, who actually looks. He actually looks smart. He exhibits charisma. Both of them do, actually. Not Sam Jackson. Not so much. I mean, half of his. I mean, the great majority of his acting consists of yelling. When you take that away, you get Star Wars Sam Jackson. Yeah, final thoughts on the movie. The acting was somewhat improved. The acting was fairly hit or miss. But when it misses, it really misses. And when it hits, it's only a moderate hit. The designs are still very creative. It does set up it does set up the Clone Wars. I don't know why it's called the Clone Wars, because it's only one war. But I guess it was called the Clone Wars in the original Star Wars, so I guess we have to call it the Clone Wars here. But yeah, it sets up the Clone Wars. But what is bad about the movie, because those were the good things about the movie, the bad about the movie is, again, some of the acting, which is far worse this time around than it was in The Phantom Menace. The almost blinding use of CGI. I mean, you just really get tired of looking at all this really fake looking imagery that you're seeing on screen. I mean, that's another major problem with Avatar. Come to think of it, is that I really did not like having to look at a computer simulation for 2.5 hours. That's a different movie. I'm hating on this one right now. I'll hate on Avatar later. But yeah, there's an excessive amount of CGI. Although the action scenes are well shot, they are well choreographed. Or let me put it this way: there's one action scene that's well choreographed and one not so much. Or one fight scene that's well choreographed and one not so much. And that's this fight between Obi-Wan and this guy named, this bounty hunter called Jango Fett. Like Boba Fett, only his name's Jango. I mean, they look the same. He's even the father of Boba Fett, but he's played by Temuera Morrison. And he fights Obi-Wan in the rain, and that's actually a pretty cool fight. I actually wish it went on a bit longer than it did. But it doesn't reek of choreography. I mean, it's basically a fist fight. Obi-Wan loses his lightsaber fairly early on in the fight. He can't get it back, so he's basically brawling with Jango. So it's in the rain on this high platform above an ocean. So it's actually a really cool fight. The action scene that's not so good is the lightsaber duel between Skywalker, Kenobi, and Count Dooku, which looks completely artificial. It looks like a dance. It doesn't even look like a lightsaber fight anymore. I mean, some people complained about the Darth Maul fight reeking of choreography in Phantom Menace. No, this one reeks of choreography. They're not even trying to hit each other. They're just dancing around. They're twirling their lightsabers around. And that changes with the Yoda fight. I mean, the Yoda fight doesn't stink of choreography. The Yoda fight is actually pretty cool, but again, it doesn't go on for very long. Much like the Jango Fett fight, the Yoda fight doesn't go on for very long. But I digress. It's just, for the most part, you feel really disconnected from the movie, whether it be from the very impersonal writing, or the artificial aesthetic that they decided to go with. I mean, everything just looks fake. It doesn't look like it's really there. I mean, it just looks and whenever the movie does want you to get sucked in, you promptly want to get out. You probably want to get sucked out, because when it does want to let you into these characters' personalities, it's only to benefit their stupid love story, and you all know what I think of that by now. So yeah. Next is Revenge of the Sith. And then I don't know. I mean, I'm really on no schedule for Star Wars movies after that. Maybe, actually, here's what I'm probably going to end up doing. I'm probably going to end up reviewing Star Wars Holiday Special, the Clone Wars movie, and each of the 5 seasons of the Clone Wars TV series, and possibly the Clone Wars micro series, the one by the same people who did Samurai Jack, and possibly one or two of the games. I'm not entirely sure. That's just my rough plan that is subject to change. But yeah, next is Revenge of the Sith. The grand entrance of Darth Vader, which is kind of undermined by what he says, but no, I'm not going to spoil it. You all know what he says already. I mean, he vomits out a cliche so wretched that you have to wonder what James Earl Jones was thinking when they had him in the recording studio. Ah, boy. Oh boy, that's